So I'm Mark Thompson. I'm up in the Highlands of Scotland, and I'm a consultant. I have a wee consultancy called True North Education, and we're largely working with education and sustainable development now. Most people get into education in general because there's an altruism. It's a good reason to get out of bed in the morning. You're trying to make the world a better place, and as corny as that might sound, I think that's what unites pretty much everybody in education. And so it's a natural extension of that we're trying to help people face the challenges in the future and be the best versions of themselves. And how can they do that if the world itself, if our survival is hanging in the balance? It becomes the most pressing issue. And I think, like most educators or people in education, they've felt, and I've certainly felt it, they felt the call to action. And it's like, okay, this is where I want to focus my energy, because this is the most pressing issue of our times, I feel. And I feel that, if you've got a background, if you've got experience or skills that can be of service, then you've got to get involved. As simple as that. So I think that's basically why, but it feels like it's happened very quickly, although I'm pretty sure most of us in this industry or business could trace a line back and see how it's evolved. It's evolved from other interests and other parts of education, and a belief in how education should be and what purpose it serves and how it should look. And it sort of naturally and organically develops into this. The fact that though education itself has been changing over a number of years, moving towards kind of learner-centered, learner-directed, more sort of experiential, more human, it hasn't changed fast enough. And now we're at the point where we need it to be up here, and it's still kind of here. And there's, I'm talking globally. There are lots of good things happening and lots of advances happening in education and in its purpose and in the way it's delivered. But I think that it's happening really quickly. And for teachers or people who've been in education for 20, 30 years, this must all feel pretty overwhelming, on top of being overwhelmed by things like the COVID-19 pandemic and the sudden transition to online learning. And suddenly people have got to learn all this tech, and now they're being asked to do this. And it's not just that it's another new thing to deliver, it actually requires you to really upskill in your understanding of how to deliver and how to engage learners. And so it's pretty massive. And for teachers and instructors, lecturers, whatever, who might feel initiative fatigue through technology and all these constant changes in school systems and qualifications and stuff like that, this could feel quite overwhelming. I think that's the challenge, is to try to present it in a way that, and it's, I fully believe this, it can be done in a way that is enriching and shouldn't actually add much of a burden. In fact, it should make life easier once it's actually flowing and involved, because it's really in a situation where the learners are going to be more engaged and the learners will take the learning forward. And your role should actually become more at the side, more mentoring, more facilitating, rather than planning and structuring every little thing. So yeah, the transition is going to be challenging. All change is, but I think the biggest challenge is to really make the case that in the end, it's going to benefit everybody. Look, if we're going to meet the challenge of a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, what are the kind of things we need to know how to be able to do? And notice that the emphasis there is on the action. It's not, we're not going to save the world by sort of hanging about in the shadows knowing stuff. It's about the application. What are you going to do with it? So these are very much, you could call them higher order cognitive skills, things like anticipatory thinking, looking ahead at what might happen and thinking about how you'll adapt and be resilient to that change. There's critical self-reflection in there, because you need to know how to bounce back from setbacks and how to learn from that. And at the core of it all is things like complex problem solving. These sustainability key competencies are more challenging because they do require systemic change in education. They require a shift in the way that we organize learning. But it's absolutely within the capacity of institutions to do this. In fact, many of them are already showing the way. And we even see our first interdisciplinary degree programs in England, actually. There's lots of good things happening. So, and the good thing about all this, just to finish this point, is that because we're in this for, there's a very much a sense of community around this. Whatever you're trying to do, if you're a maths teacher trying to figure out how to use differential equations to interpret, climate cycles, you can guarantee there's somebody out there in the world that has done the same thing and is absolutely willing and ready to share that knowledge. So it's out there.